to jump off to our new series called Authentic. This will be 4 weeks, and this will be based on the book of Romans, chapter 13 to 15. Okay? Napansin kasi namin the past 5 years when we would have series on the book of Romans, okay? We would always have from Romans 1 to 12. But we never touch on Romans 13 to 15. Okay? Sa mga nangangarap na ma-preach namin yung Romans 16:16, which is to greet each other with a holy kiss, baka 10 years from now pa yan. No? So, but Romans 13 to 15, we'll look at that because Romans 1 to 12 talks about where Paul describes the state of man, which is we're sinners, and how God loved us, saved us, died on the cross, the implications ng cross. Medyo theological yung book ng Romans. Pero after nun, ma-appreciate mo na sobra kong sama, pero minahal ako ni Lord, and thus, now, I offer my life as a living sacrifice before God. Romans 12. And then it stops there in Romans 13 to 15. Paul now writes some practical things that we need to do because God saved us from our sin. In short, this is an outworking of my walk with God and my faith with God. And so he wrote Romans 13 to 15. So in the next 4 weeks, we'll look at that. Now, strange lang sa Romans 13 to 15, si Paul, para siyang nung time na yun, ewan ko kung tinatamad siya magsulat o medyo patalon-talon yung sulat niya from Romans 13, 14, and 15. Pero ito try natin tahiin with the main theme of that, which is really that our faith needs to be authentic. What that means is the same faith that I have in church should be the same faith that I have when I go out. I don't pretend to be someone else because I'm a Christian. I'm not just a Christian on a Sunday and inside the church, I'm also a Christian outside church. The same way I move in honor and love and respect is the same way I'll move in love, honor, and respect outside. Diba? Sa loob ng church, mas mabilis magmahalan dahil mababait ang mga tao. Sa labas, mas iba yung tao, pero sabi ni Paul, it must be all the same. Our faith is authentic. It's not fake. You can't fake it. In short, if you're acting nice here and you're not acting nice there, ang tawag sa'yo, plastic. Okay? Hypocrite. Okay? So, ayaw natin yan. Tingnan mo yung katabi mo, mukha bang plastic? Hindi, no? Okay, hawakan mo, hindi yan made of plastic. Okay, made of flesh yan. Okay, in short, makapal yan. Okay, so, we are authentic. And that's what we'll look at for the next 4 weeks. But I want to lay the foundation on our first week so that we'll be all in the same page. And hopefully, the following weeks, we'll try to review the foundation kasi baka makalimutan yan. Now, isa sa mga bagay na kailangan natin baguhin sa isip natin is yung tinatawag natin the great divide between the sacred and the secular. Marami sa mga Kristiyano, when they think there's a divide between being sacred and being secular. So when some people would talk to me and say, grabe no, iniwan mo business mo, nagpastor ka, grabe, pilit ako sa'yo. Ibang klase yan. Tinanggap mo yung calling ni Lord sa'yo. What are they thinking? They're thinking that as a pastor, I have a higher calling than someone who works in the office. They think that preparing messages and preaching the gospel is of the highest calling compared to being a call center agent. Why? Because there's a divide between the sacred and the secular. Ay, ikaw nagtrabaho sa loob ng simbahan, tumutulong ka sa mahirap, sacred work yan. Bilib ako sa'yo. Idol, grabe. Pero kami, ordinaryong tao lang kami. Secular work kami. Ganun mag-isip. Maraming tao ganun mag-isip. Paul would break that in the book of Romans. He was saying, that's not how Christianity works. There's no such thing as a divide between the sacred and the secular. Now, let me make it into a mother's example since it's Mother's Day. Okay? And kasi we'll be talking about the government later. So medyo ang hirap, no? Mother's Day, pero government pag-usapan natin. Pero sabi nga ng isang nanay kanina, well, sa bahay, kami naman ang government. So, baka makarelate naman later, no? Sino dito, mommies? Can you lift up your hands if you're a mom? Again. Now, who's a working mom? You're working mom. Okay. Yan, sige. Alright, punta tayo dito sa, kilala ko na kayo. Yan, sige. What's your name? Lady. Okay. Obviously. Okay, so, What's your work? What do you do? Road manager for artists. Are you open to grabe kanina, taga GMA 7 ngayon. Parang nga ano dito Parang, dahil pa siya? Hindi, joke lang. Hindi. Road manager ka ng mga artists. Okay, how many kids do you have? One only. 5 years old. Okay, now, what's your name again? Lady. Okay, Lady is a road manager. Okay, now, let me... Sino dito stay at home, mom? Who stays at home? Okay, there. What's your name? Carla. You're stay at... Ilang kids? How many kids do you have? Also one. Pantay. One. And layo nyo lang. Okay, now? So, you also have one. What do you do at home? You bake. Okay. Sideline mo baking. Yeah, so you're able to spend more time with your kids, right? Now, you've got two kinds of moms here. One who works as a road manager, malamang lagi kang nasa labas, tama? Kasi road hindi naman house, no? So yung anak mo sa kalsada rin, no? So, okay. A road manager and a housewife, okay? A stay-at-home mom. A guy who thinks that there's a divide might go to Lady and say, what do you do? I'm a road manager. Ganon? Okay. Parehas na pala tayo nagtatrabaho. Grabe nga, no? Minsan nga, naiwan ko yung mga anak ko. Ganyan. Ay, nako. Tapos pupunta siya doon sa isa. Anong trabaho mo? Ako, stay at home mo. Ay, buti ka pa. Oh, grabe. Idol, grabe. Grabe ginawa mo. Grabe sacrifice mo. Bilib talaga ako sa'yo. Ibang klase ka. What is he or she thinking? He or she thinks that is now more sacred than this one because, you know, you get to spend more time with your kids and, you know, you did this. Diba? Ay, ikaw, ba't ka nagtatrabaho? Ganyan. Now, another person, again, can come and go to Lady and say, Lady, ano trabaho mo? Road manager ka. Wow, galing mo naman. Road manager ka. Oh, okay yan. Kasi, di ba, nakatulong tayo sa mister natin. Kasi nga, yung mga ibang nanay, stay at home. Ano ba yan? Di ba? So, chinichismis nila yung kabila. Di ba? So, medyo ano sila, di ba? And would look at the other one and say, stay at home. Dapat ka stay at home. Facebook ka ba? Ganun. So, what does this mean? Because there's a divide between the sacred and the secular. They think the other one is a bomb and the other one works, or the other one now makes a sacrifice for the kids and the other one is not thinking about the kids. So sino ang mas tama? Sabi ni Paul sa Romans, actually sa buong book, sa Bible, sinasabi ni Paul na ang stay-at-home mom, it is worship unto the Lord. She bakes at home as a sideline to spend time with the kids, and it is worship unto the Lord. A road manager mom goes out and works hard, and that is worship unto the Lord. What that means is both of them must look at what they're doing and say, this is worship unto the Lord. There's no such thing that this is more sacred and this is more secular, or that's more secular and this is more sacred. It's all worship unto the Lord. If you are a Christian, that's how you think. I cannot boast I'm a pastor and that guy is a sweeper in EDSA. Because he sweeps for the glory of God and I preach for the glory of God. My calling is not of the higher calling. That is his calling, and he's fulfilling the call of God in his life. Are you getting it? Ang isang nagsusulat ng praise and worship song para kantahin sa church is not more sacred than someone who works at a bar for a living to feed his family and sings love songs, because that is worship unto the Lord. As long as walang sablay yung lyrics. You get the point? It is worship unto the Lord. You cannot say, mas sacred yun. You're thinking like what? You're thinking like life is dichotomized. Yan yung sinasabi ko lagi, di ba? Parang ang tanong lagi sa'yo, kamusta Christian life mo? There's no such thing as kamusta ang Christian life mo. Di ba? Kasi pag sinabi mo, kamusta Christian life mo? Okay, Christian nga eh. Christian, Christ, okay. Tanong mo naman demonic life ko. Di ba? Hindi. Walang ganon eh. It's one life. Okay? Really. Yan ang isa sa mga mali natin. So, pag dichotomize ang buhay mo, ganun ka mag-isip, malaking problema mo. You'll face a lot of problems. Why? Because you think you're not worthy, you're not the same as the others, and you look at work, and you become relaxed at work because you think it's not worship unto the Lord. Right? Classic example na lang, punta ako sa office. May mga pastors at mayroong mga admin na nagpapatakbo ng simbahan. May mga nagpe-paperworks at mayroong umaharap sa mga tao. Can I say now to my admin staff, you know what? We're the higher calling. We're the pastors. You're just admins. Our worship is far more perfumed to the Lord than your worship. No. It's all the same. If they're not there, the church would crumble. Kasi walang nag-aayos na sistema. It is the same worship unto the Lord. There's no such thing as a divide between the sacred and the secular. Okay? So next week, when we talk about love, there's no divide between the sacred and the secular. Kahit anong relationship yan. There's no such thing as sacred and secular. Why? All relationships are sacred. Okay? When we talk about helping the poor, there's no such thing as more sacred institution and a secular institution. All of that is sacred to the Lord. But today, we'll talk about a very controversial, hard topic called submitting to civil authority or honoring authority in our lives. Right? Mukhang lahat tayo tatamaan dito. Okay lang. Okay lang. Okay lang naman, di ba? Because pag tinamaan ka, that's worship unto the Lord. Okay? May bukol ka lang na, no? Romans 13. It says, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Paul was saying, all authority. And he's not just talking about government, he's talking about parental authority, he's talking about the police, the military, your teachers, principals, and government are all what? Appointed by God. All governing authorities are appointed by God. There is no authority na hindi alam ni Lord. Everything was placed by God. In Daniel 2:21, sabi ni Daniel at the time, he says, God changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. What does that mean? See, Daniel, at the time of King Darius, made a statue and told everyone, you have to bow down to the statue or else you'll be thrown in the lions, you need to pray to me and not to your God or else you'll be thrown in the lion's den. Sabi ni Daniel, hindi ko pwede gawin yan. Hindi ako re-rebelde, pero pupunta ako sa private room ko, magpe-pray ako. Nakita ng, tinapon siya. Di ba? Pero, nag-rebelde ba talaga si Daniel? Hindi. Sabi ni Daniel, si God, in-appoint yan. He would set up kings and He would remove kings. Ibig sabihin, huwag natin papangunahan si Lord. Alam ni Lord lahat yan. Hindi gulat si Lord na yung presidente natin si Pinoy. Why? It is God who sets up kings and God deposes kings. Right? 2016, darating na naman, election na naman, siguro meron kayong bobotohin, di ba? Tapos hindi nanalo yung binoto nyo, feeling nyo dapat siya yung panalo. God is not in heaven saying, shucks, nanalo siya. Ha? Hindi ko alam yun ha. Inanoin ko yung PCOS machine, dapat nanalo. Hindi. God is not surprised. He's not surprised. Really? Di ba? Bakit? Ang authority appointed by God yan. Nung ipinanganak ka, paglabas mo, nakita mo nanay mo, ano sabi mo? Sinabi mo ba, huwag! Huwag! Hindi. Why? It's not your choice. It was appointed that that would be your mom, whether you like it or not. God is sovereign. First day mo pa lang sa mundo, pinakita na ni Lord, I am the boss. I'm not surprised. In fact, magkamukha kayo, it's not a surprise. That's your authority in life. Right? So, even in a democracy, pag meron akong binotong di nanalo at nanalo yung binoto ng madla, what happens? I need to now submit to that authority. Why? It is appointed by God, not by men. Yes, we voted, Di ba? Pero hindi ibig sabihin, ay, hindi ko siya binoto, hindi ako magsasubmit dyan. Hindi pwede. Bakit? In-appoint ni Lord yan. We don't see eye to eye. Iba yung philosophy niya sa government eh. Ano sabi ni Lord? Don't philosophize, okay? Submit to governing authorities. Why? It is appointed by me. It is God's will to govern the world of mankind through human civil authorities. Minsan, dami natin reklamo. Dapat ganyan, dapat tanggalin na lang yan. Isipin mo, no, pag nawala yung gobyerno, bukas, mag-announce sila, mamayang gabi, starting 12 midnight, there will be no more Philippine government. Sabihin ko sa inyo, first 30 minutes pa lang, napasukan na kayo. There will be no more police and military to protect the people. Sabihin ko ba lang, in 8 hours, nandito na lahat ng mga kamag-anak ko. Diba? Nobody will protect us. Nobody will enforce the law. Kaya minsan marami tayong reklamo, hindi natin iisip kung ano sinasabi natin. It is God who appoints civil government. Oy, kahit kamag-anak ko sila, Pilipino. Okay, Pilipino pa rin ako. Verse 2. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on what? Themselves. You know the context of this? When Paul was writing this, the emperor and the ruler at that time would actually persecute Christians. Kaya mainit to. Itong sulat ito, mainit. Siguro sabihin ng ibang leaders kay Paul, Paul, hindi mo alam ng pinagsasabi mo. The ruler is persecuting us. Why do you say it's appointed by God? That's an enemy of God. Now Paul is saying, no, it's not an enemy of God. They're appointed by God. God chose them. God in His sovereignty chose a ruler who would persecute Christians. And even kill Christians. And if we resist that, we resist the ordinance of God. We resist God Himself. Kaya kung mahihilig ka, i-bash at i-curse ang officials natin, Presidente, Vice President, Senate, Congress, Mayor, what are you doing? You're cursing God. Why? It is God who ordained them. Hirap, no? Isipin mo, hirap ka na ngayon dahil may nabasa kang news. Si Paul hirap kasi alam niya, mga kaibigan niya, pinipersecute. Pati siya, kailangan niyang tumago. Imagine how hard it is for Paul to even write these things. And he says, why? If I resist, then I will bring judgment on myself. Now, there's a difference between disagreeing and rebelling or resisting. Okay? Iba yung rebelde. Iba yung, like, there are things I don't agree with. Okay? Maybe there would be laws that I won't agree with. Okay? So what do? I don't rebel. Magbago tayo ng gobyerno. Patalsed. No, you don't do that. As a Christian, what do? Right? You still move in respect and in honor. Find ways on how to be able to communicate this. But it would not be to the point wherein I want to overthrow you because now we're strong here in Green Hills. Kami ang tatakbo nitong syudad na to. No. Paul says, don't do that. We were called to pray for our leaders. We were called to pray for our government. We don't bash them. We move in the spirit of honor. Why? Because you honor God by honoring your government. Okay? You cannot take matters into your own hands. Sabi ni Lord, ako nag-appoint yan. Government, ever since, run by flawed people. Sa tingin mo, paano na-sustain yan? Because of flawed people? No. It's because of my supernatural hand. That's why it still exists. Democracy. There's a lot of disadvantages to democracy. But why does it still exist? Who's sustaining it? God. Not men. We will always abuse systems. Why? We're sinners. We have flawed leaders. We're flawed people. So, what do? Instead of putting matters into our own hands, we need to pray and honor those who are in authority. Sa kingdom ni God, bawal ang Batman. You can't have, tagal naman ng mustisya, ako na ngayon ang dark justice. You can't do that. You have to trust that justice will be served. Maybe not in your timeline, but God says, I will do it. Why? I am a God of justice. Maybe not at this present administration, but I will bring about my justice. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So sabi ni Lord, ayaw ng government, ako gagawa. And that's what He did. Okay? During the time of the Israelites, when they were being persecuted, He would bring judgment upon those people who would be cruel to the Israelites. But He says, it's going to be on my timeline. I am sovereign. Okay? But we have to move in honor. Pag nakakita tayo ng pulis, anong lumalabas sa bunganga natin? What comes out of our mouth? What do we think? Negative ba? Police. Yeah. Yeah. Fear them? Or do we honor them? God says, I've appointed rulers in your land. Yung MMDA na naghinto sa'yo kanina kasi nag-go ka dahil Sunday red, hindi applicable. Pag yan tinatakbuhan mo din si Lord. Literally. Why? It is appointed by God. You have to move in the spirit of honor and respect that officer. Hindi mo wini-whiplash yan at kinakarate. Dahil napanood mo lang sa YouTube. Yeah? You respect them. Right? Minsan, pag ginagawa natin, di ba? Sobrang nating negative. Pati sa mga bata, papahuling kita sa polis. Bata pa lang, tinuturuan mo na parang bad guy pa yung polis. Yung anak mo yung bad guy, hindi disiplinado, tinuturo mo sa polis, di ba? You've got to teach them that our police force, what? Is there to serve justice, to protect, and to serve us. Right? Naalala ko nung single ako, may nagturo sa akin na pag nahuli ka, labanan mo. Kahit mali ka. Make a case. So ginagawa ko yun. No? Hindi ko na sabihin sino nagturo sa akin. No? Kasi pastor din nagturo. So nasigil ako. Lagi ko nahuli. Pag nahuli ako, pag kinakaaway ng pulis, lagi ko natitikitan. Palo talaga ako. Sabi ko, ano ba ito? Ba't mali? Yeah. And then, I've learned about how to move in the spirit of honor. Parang mali yata yung tinuro sa akin. No? So now, pag nahuli ako ng pulis, iba na. At actually, matagal na akong hindi natikitan. Or kung hindi, magpapatiket ako. Kung gustong humingi, nagpapatiket na lang ako. Right? One time, nag-drive ako kasama si Tami at isa pang pastor. Nag-left turn kami doon sa EDSA papuntang GMA. 7. Hindi ko alam, hindi pwede mag-left turn. Hinuli kami ng pulis. Nahuli tayo. Ngayon natuto na ako, hindi na ako yung lalaban. Ganito na ako palagi pag nahuli. Sorry na. Hindi ako nagdadrama. Hindi to acting eh. Pero watch okay lang. Joke lang. Okay. I love my job. It's worship unto the Lord. Okay. Di ba? Sorry na, ganyan. Hindi ko sinasadya. I am a law-abiding citizen. Kung nakita ko lang, I would have obeyed. I didn't know any better. Hindi ko lang, sorry naman, patawad na. Ganun ba eh? Ano bang ano? Ay, naku Manong, sorry. Hindi ko ginagawa yan. Masama ho yan. Bakit? Ano ka ba? No, ako, born again. Kayo talaga, ganyan. Di ba? Sige na. Hindi, pero Manong, anong pangalan mo? Sabi, bakit? Hindi kita susumbong. Kaya hindi. Sige, pag-pray kita. I'll pray for you. Yeah. It becomes a ministry point to even pray for them. Tandaan nyo doon, mga pulis, pati MMDA, buong maghapon, nakabilad sa araw. Tapos di naman sila nakasando, di ba? Siyempre, awkward din pag nakasando. Yung suot nila, di magkakapal, hindi naman cotton yung suot nila. Di ba? Init-init. Dati mapuputi yan dahil sa pollution, maitim na, di ba? And you have to understand. Sometimes, di ba, minsan, tayo pa yung matapang, tayo pa galit sa police, di ba? They're doing their job. And it's a hard job. But once you understand, hey, they're appointed by God. They're authorities. You move in the spirit of honor. Sometimes even minister to them. Okay? Huwag tayong nangunguna na tayo pa yung negative pagdating sa police, sa military, sa politics. Nilalagay mo sa Facebook lahat ng batikos mo sa gobyerno. Useless yan, di ka naman friendly Pinoy sa Facebook eh. Di ba? Ano magbabasa kung di friends mo? At sino ka ba? Hindi ka naman expert din eh. Rather, why don't you put your energy into something more fruitful? Pray for them. Okay? Pray for them. Honor them. Whether it's the police, it's the military, it's our official. Stephen Mansfield said this, and it actually hit me. He said, God is doing more than what we are aware of. Stephen Mansfield works in the States, in Washington, D.C., working with a lot of government officials from the Republicans and Democrats. Amazing ministry that he has. Sabi niya, God, we have to remember this as Christians when it comes to the government. God is doing more than what we are aware of. Let me give you a local example. Minsan mo, ay, corrupt naman. Pati mga judges, nababayaran, mga justices. God is doing more than what we are aware of. 2 years ago, a Chief Justice was placed, our Supreme Chief Justice Sereno, was put into power. Supernaturally. Madaming in-overtake na mga mas matatandang Chief Justices, and now, she's the Chief Justice. Now, Chief Justice Sereno is not just a person who attends church on a Sunday. She's a disciple of God. She is a God-fearing Jesus follower. Imagine, to have the Chief Justice of the land, who is a disciple of Jesus, leading for the next 25 years. God is doing more than what we are aware of. Would she make mistakes? Yes, she would make mistakes. Is she under pressure? Sobra. You couldn't even imagine the work that she does every day, and the pressure, the political pressure that's surrounding her. What do? Papatikusin mo ba? Mali yung desisyon niya. Hindi, pag-pray mo yan. Kung ikaw nandyan, ewan ko kung ano gagawin mo. But rather, we'll move in the spirit of honor and respect and love our Chief Justice. God is doing more than what we are aware of. You'll never know. Ilan ng presidente ang namuno sa Pilipinas? Dami na. Are they flawed people? Did they all make mistakes? May ninakaw ba sila? Baka. But look at this. In spite of all the mistakes that they've made, where's the Philippines now? Last year, investment grade, tatlo nag-investment grade sa atin. Okay? We're very credible in our economy. When the crisis came 2-3 years ago, what happened? Because of our economic policies, ang tibay pati ng banking system natin, hindi tayo apektado. Hindi, yung mga mahirap nga, pag wala yung mga policies, lahat tayo mahirap. What I'm saying is, God is doing something more than what we are aware of. Minsan kasi ang problema, sino sa inyo dito, yung Facebook nyo hanggang ngayon, ang newsfeed nyo pa rin may Weather Pacquiao? Di ba? Minsan, move on na kayo, di ba? Parang yun pa rin yung newsfeed ko. Hanggang ngayon may Weather Pacquiao. What would some people do? There's a person who actually made a highlight video of why Pacquiao won. He cut all those 12 rounds and showed us all the punches of Pacquiao to Mayweather. After mo panoorin ng 3 minutes, ano conclusion mo? Talo si Mayweather. Eh bakit? In-edit mo yung video eh. Hindi sumapak si Mayweather doon sa highlight. Then somebody will make a highlight of Mayweather. Di ba? Dadaya to, ginaganon niya, no? Sumasayaw-sayaw ng gano'n, di ba? Ay talaga, tumatakbo yan. Dumog eh. Di ba? Why? You highlight only some of the scenes. That's what we do sometimes. You highlight what is wrong. So what happens? The end result, we dishonor people. At talaga naman ganyan yan. Deserve niya yan. Dapat nga pinagmumura yan. Dapat di na pinagpipray yan. Di na magiging Christian yan. Right? Why? You highlight all the wrongs. I was in my men's victory group, and we were going through a chapter on honoring dads. That was our subject. One of the guys there, out of the blue, was crying. He said, Pastor, paano? Ito yung tanong niya. Paano ko ma-honor yung dad ko? I've been trying to think of even one thing to honor about my dad. I couldn't think of anything. And he was crying at this point. So parang kami lahat, tulungan naman natin ito. Ano bang... Yeah. He couldn't think of anything. His dad left them, had another, committed adultery, never met up with them. It was so hard to even honor someone like that. So sabi niya, kanina pa ako nag-iisip, just one to honor about my dad. And we told him, you know what? ano ka ba? Mukay ka ba? Meron yan. So now, we were thinking now as a group, how would you honor your dad? Maybe you can honor your dad by saying, Dad, I honor you for marrying mom. Yeah? Or your looks. You look like your dad. Okay ka naman, di ba? Okay naman looks mo. I honor you because that's your look. Di ba? Parang, and I know it sounds funny, but at the time there was so much tension there because he couldn't think of something. We ended up, he couldn't think of anything after the meeting. His dad actually just passed away a month ago. During the funeral, this guy stood up, the same guy late last year who couldn't think of something to honor about his dad, and made a very emotional speech honoring his dad during the funeral. People were crying. Bakit? Meron yan. Baka yung one time lang, nung 4 years old ka, nilabas ka niya, at nag-Unimart kayo, at bumili kayo ng IC sa Unimart, o ng Orange Julius. There's something there that you can honor your dad about. It's the same way with people in authority. Even your parents now. Siyempre, highlight mo lahat ng mali na ginawa ng magulang mo, wala kang ma-honor talaga. Ganito, iniwan kami. Ganito, ganyan. Ganito, favoritism. Ganyan, blah, 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 blah. And you end up really bitter. Why? Because you're always thinking about anong ginawa niyang mali, so wala ka talaga maisip na tama. Why not, as what Paul said, choose to move in honor and highlight even the smallest things that maybe your parents, who are your authority, did to you, and honor them of that. I've been to weddings wherein the dad left the family, but then the Christian man would stand up and honor his dad in front of everyone. It'd be awkward, but you just know when he honored his dad, malaman parang, wow. He chose to see whatever it is that he can cling on to so that he can honor. When people talk bad about our government, huwag kang gagatong. Malis ka. Pagdasal mo. When they start calling names, when people start calling names, Vice President, you call them names, come on, don't ride on. Move in the spirit of honor. Move in the spirit of respecting. Why? They're appointed people of God. Always move in the spirit of honor. Okay? Kasi one day tayo din, magiging authority rin tayo. Gusto nyo ba ganun yung tingin sa'yo? Imagine nyo, no? Kaano kasarap ang isang office na may spirit of honor? Na kung ikaw na yung leader doon, ino-honor ka pa rin kahit ang dami mong maling ginagawa. It's actually a nice workplace. I would love to go to a workplace like that. Why? You're moving in the spirit of honor. For rulers are not terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority, and then do what is good, and you will receive his approval? Again, remind ko lang ulit, Paul was writing this in the context that the ruler was actually persecuting Christians. But he said, generally, government would actually be not a terror, but would be someone who would reward good conduct. Am I right? Tama, di ba? Pag ikaw, wala kang ginagawang mali, let's say taxes, you pay your taxes legally, complete, with all honesty. Pag tumawag yung BIR, will you be afraid? Oh, how can I pray for you? Di ba ganun ba? Bakit? Clear ng conscience ko eh. Hindi, may nakita po kaming totoo? Check mo yan. Check nyo yan. Double check nyo, triple check nyo. Kasi na-check ko na yan, na-check na ng lawyers ko yan, tsaka na-accountant ko yan. Wala kaming mali. We follow rules. Right? Tatago. We've experienced that as a family. Somebody calls us, hey, you did this. No. Everything's legal. You check it. No, it's not legal. Okay. We can actually see you in court. Why? Wala kang tinatago eh. Linis ka eh. Pero pag alam mong may hanky-panky ka, pag may tumawag, may kumakatok, takot ka, di ba? Wala ako dito! Di ba? Bakit? May tinatago ka eh. Right? Mga anak, gano'n naman, di ba? Kinumusta ka ng magulang mo. Kamusta na? Sorry, nanay. Sorry. Yung kape lang sana. Di ba, nasabi ko. Di ba, may tinatago. Praning na praning ka. Parang lagi na lang may... Look, bakit alam niya na, yung tingin niya sa akin, ganito na eh. Di ba? So, di ba gano'n? Di ba, gano'n naman talaga, di ba? Attend ka ng churches, ito yung subject, tapos binatikos mo kasi yung mga, ako, alam ni Pastor, tapos hindi ka makatingin sa akin mamaya, di ba? Alis ka na lang. Bakit? May tinatago ka eh. Kinamusta ka lang, di ba? Gusto ka pala kamustahin. Wala na, di ba? Ano ka na, parang kang sinasakyan. Diba? Ay, dami mong tinatago eh. Pero pag wala kang tinatago, yun nga sabi niya, it's okay. I actually received the text, oh, we're renting this house, pero 8 pages yung contract, mukhang matugutong landlord na to. Sabi ko, bro, kung mabait ka at magbabayad ka on time, ang kontrata na yan, let's go. Yeah? O nga naman, sabi niya, mabait naman ako, nagbabayad naman ako on time. O, okay na yung kontrata na yan. Nabasa mo naman, di ba? Oh. You see, why? Because you are of good character. And you actually pay. Verse 4, for he is God's what? Servant, for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger, who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. Ano sabi niya? Civil authority are servants of God. In another version, a more accurate version, they're pastors. That's why in Europe, they call them Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Education. It all started there. Government was God's will. It's a ministry. You serve as God's people to serve your constituents. So sabi ni Paul, they are God's servant. Therefore what? This is why you pay taxes. For the authorities are God's servants. 3 times siya na inulit yung God's servant. In just 3 verses, 3 times inulit. Servant ni Lord yan. Yung ayaw mo, yung hindi mo binoto, servant ni Lord yan. Paano mo nire-respeto yung pastor o si Pope, di ba? Ganun din yan. Servant of the Lord yan. Huwag mong babastusin yan. They're servants of God. You pay taxes. Give everyone what you owe him. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then what? Honor. And God says, honor them. So you move in the spirit of honor because government authorities are ministers of God. They're ministers of God. Okay? So when I look at the president, he is my office mate. Why? He is a minister of God. He is your colleague. Why? All work is sacred. We're ministers of God. Whether you work in the office, or you're an MMDA, a security guard, a business owner, remember this, the authorities that are given to you are ministers of God. Pay honor to whom honor is due, for this is what? The will of God. I want to jump off to 1 Peter where Peter wrote, and I want to end with this. In 1 Peter 2 verse 13, it says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every authority instituted among men, whether to the king or as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong. Ano sabi ni Peter? Again, context ha. Peter wrote this in light that the emperor at the time actually blessed his crucifixion. He was crucified upside down. Right? And here's Peter saying, submit yourselves for whose sake? Huh? For the Lord's sake. Don't pay taxes kasi baka mahuli. Okay? Stop tayo kasi red eh. Dapat lang, di ba? Una. No? Pangalawa, when you stop on a red light, it's Christian worship. Why? I do it for the Lord's sake. Okay? Kids, you live under the house of your parents. You might not agree with them. Submit for whose sake? Your parents' sake? No, for the Lord's sake. When I'm tempted to shout at them because we don't agree, at mas malaki na ako sa tatay ko ngayon, at kaya ko na siyang i-body slam, I choose to shut up because it is worship unto the Lord. Is it hard? Yes. But who are you doing it for? For whose sake? For the Lord's sake. It's not for us. Again, it goes back. Kung tingin mo sacred secular, hindi mo gagawin yan. Bakit? It's not for the Lord's sake. But you're doing everything for the Lord's sake. It is God's will that your honorable lives, okay? Again, he uses the word honorable. Our lives should be honorable. Should silence those ignorant people who make foolish accusations against you. You know, sometimes, they would say, grabe ka, preach mo honor. Ganun to na nga yung corruption, ganyan na nga. Papaligin yung sabi ni Mansfield, sabi niya, sometimes we're not just aware of what God is doing. Imagine mo, pag nandito ako, ginamit ko yung pulpit. Yeah? And I start to speak negatively against the senator and the congressman and the vice and the president and the mayor and I hate politics, blah, 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 blah. Hindi mo alam, may ginagawa na pala si Lord. Next week, nandito yung isang congressman na binatigos mo. After mo mag-preach, sobra siyang touch, pumunta sa harapan. Pastor, gusto ko na maging Christian. Ganun ba? Pinag-pray mo. Papakinggan ko na po lahat ng mga messages mo na na-miss ko. Ano sasabihin mo sa kanya? Okay, congressman, pero wag lang last week, ha? Why? Pinangunahan mo si Lord, eh. Diba? You never know who'll go to church. Again, the church is not a place just for Christians. It's also for people who are seeking God and people whom God is seeking, and now they're looking for answers. And this, as Christians, it is not our job to rebel and resist. Disagree, yes. But I don't know if the pulpit is the right avenue for that. To pray, for sure. To honor, 100% sure. That's what Scripture tells us. Paul says, if you live honorable lives, what would happen? You would silence the people who foolishly talk against you. For you are free, yet you are God's slaves. So don't use your freedom as an excuse to do evil. Don't do that. Move in a different spirit. And Peter ended with this. I love how he ended. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the king. Question, when was the last time you ever prayed for our president? When was the last time you've ever blessed our vice president? When was the last time you did not even grumble but rather speak words of life over our Senate and our Congress? Have you ever thought about even your local leaders, the mayor, the vice mayor, and the councilors? Alam mo, sabi ni Lord, God will place us in the presence of kings. People who live honorable lives, you'll be surprised. God would creatively use you to be in the presence of kings. What? Why? To minister. God has given us that opportunity. But if you're not honorable, nobody would respect you. They won't listen. They won't even give you the time of day to minister God's love. But if you move in honor, you know how we're able to have good relationship with our local government here? Because in the second year of our church, we decided, we called the office of the mayor and said, is there any foundation that the city has established? Because we want to give a sizable amount to that foundation. And they gave us the Women's Foundation, okay, of San Juan City. And so we said, we'd like to give a check to the city. Instead of the church asking the city for funds, we're blessing the city. Sa Tonto ay mayor, he required all the vice mayor and all the councilors to attend our church. And every time, ever since that year, because we move in honor, we now have a place in the presence of rulers. Right? And we're not like, boboto kita mayor. No. We don't do that. who were there to minister and speak the Word of God. And we move in honor. You'll be amazed. God is doing something that we're not even aware of. He's changing lives. He's changing people. Long-term solution to this. Alam niyo anong long-term solution? To see change happen in our nation. You might not like my answer, no? Discipleship. Long-term, no? Dati kasi, kwento ko na ba dito? Yung nag-rally kami, di ba, no? Dati kasi, usong-uso yung tabloid, daming porn, di ba? Ewan kung nabutan yun, Bulgar, lahat na. So, nag-rally kami, we chose to rally, so punta kami sa Pedro Hill. May mga placards kami. Sarama, ganyan, porn, ganyan. Mga kami, Lasalians kami lahat. Alam niyo naman, Lasalians, iba ang welga ng Lasalians sa mga taga-UP. Mga UP masyado eh. Kami mga Lasalians, may mga Manila paper kami. Sumigod kami, porn, kadire. Serious to, kwento na to. Noong first 10 minutes ay kung kaya ko ba to, biglang dumating yung news, parang ayaw ko na makiwelga sa mga Lasalians. Medyo, oh, it's so hot here. How long will this be ba? Diba? But you know what happened? We were less than 20 people. We were able to close down a tabloid because of that. But after 3 months, they're back. Why? Short-term solution. They're back with a vengeance. But what happens if the church will do its role to make disciples? Yung mga next generation mo of senator, konsehal, mayor, vice mayor, artista, doktor, road manager, stay-at-home mom, pastor. Sipin mo, if we do our job as a church to make disciples, what will we produce? God-fearing people. That's why when we call the church to action, it's not a selfish motive. Because sabi ni Lord, this is plan A, there's no plan B. Go and make disciples of all nations. And that's a serious command from the Lord. Because that's the only way we'll change our nation. Yeah? And I want to challenge you with that as we end. Again, what you'll hear this week to the next 3 more weeks would challenge you to get out of your seat and do something about it. Why? Because there's no divide between the sacred and the secular. All things you do, you have to ask the question, will this honor God? Will this